Sup? This video won't take long. Let me jump into it. It's Greggatron. This is about TikTok, man. I don't have a TikTok account, thank God. Because if I did, I'd probably pull my goatee out. But from what I've seen, this is nothing but a bunch of crybabies. Just a bunch of Gen Zers and crying millennials, just crying about everything. Like, they'll cry about this water bottle. They don't put the nutritional facts on Aquafina. They'll find anything just to pretty much get attention about. And it's like so ridiculous because, like I said, I don't even have a TikTok, but the fact that I'm seeing this stuff through YouTube, because it's all connected now, I'm like, I gotta talk about this real quick. So I saw this little clip. This woman, she's up here talking about, which one was it? There's so many different examples. Oh, so she's talking about she can't work a 9 to 5 job, and she's quoting somebody else talking about not everybody is built to work 8 hours a day. And she agrees with it. It's like, wait a minute. So you're complaining that you can't work 8 hours a day like a normal person. And that's one thing, okay. But here's my problem. Lately, as of late, women have been talking about equality and feminism and all this crap, right? But that very narrative pushes women and men are equal. We don't want to stay in the home, right? We don't want to raise the kids. We can get a babysitter, this type of stuff. We can do whatever a man can do, right? That's their whole stance. We can have slut walks. We can wear pussy hats. We're going to take the shame out of being a slut. All these things. We're equal to a man. Anything a man can do, we can do it. Yet now you're complaining that you can't work a 9 to 5 job. And she's crying about this, by the way. That's the hypocrisy I see. It's crazy, man. There was another video recently. This woman is a wife and a mother. She's talking about the food prices are too high. And she's up here crying, like bawling her eyes out. She's like, I have kids. I have a husband. He works full time. I work full time. And we just got paid last Friday and now it's Tuesday. And we only have $300 left. And she never said what he does for a living, but she was like a registered nurse, RN. And last I checked, nurses make good money. So what are y'all spending y'all's money on, first of all? Second of all, why is her husband letting her get on social media, putting the whole family on blast? Like, that's making the family look weak. That's making the husband definitely look weak, because you're basically saying to your husband, you can't provide for us. You're not enough. I'm not enough. You're not enough. We're not enough. We're not doing good enough. And that's not even my issue. My thing is, kids are going to grow up someday, right? So what happens when the kids grow up, and whether they see it themselves or their friends, because, kids are mean at school. What happens when the kids at school say, hey, Bobby, is this your mom on TikTok 8 years ago talking about food prices are too high? And then the kids are going to see it. They're going to be like, oh, man, mom was really crying in this video. Like, how does that look? You're basically just complaining about nothing at this point. You have no faith in yourself. You have no faith in your husband. You have no faith in God. And that's all TikTok is. People up here crying. One more example. I think this was TikTok. There was a woman, like right around when the Ukraine war started with Russia, right around that time, there was a woman in the army, or one of the military branches. She was up here crying, talking about, I don't want to go to war. I didn't think this was gonna happen. Oh God, I just wanted to join the services so I could pay through college. And I'm thinking, B word, what the F did you expect the military is? She talking about, I didn't think anybody was gonna go to war with anybody. I wasn't supposed to be meant for active duty. What? You're not like in the National Guard, lady. You're in the active service. Like, what do you think the military is? So she was all upset because she might go to war and she might die and all this stuff. But again, that's all TikTok is. That's really all social media is today, period. People complaining. Now, people might say, well, Greg, you get on YouTube and you complain. It's like, kinda. Like, when I'm on YouTube talking about stuff like this, most of my videos consist of these words, I don't get it, or makes no sense, or help me understand. Like, you're not going to find me crying about society. I talk about society, but ain't no tears coming from this face. Not on camera anyway, right? But it's out of control. Like when I started on YouTube many years ago, not that I'm a big YouTuber by any means, but I remember people were making YouTube channels back then to help people, like to encourage people, to give people advice. And I remember chit-chatting with people back then who had much bigger channels, and they were always positive. It was always a I can do personality type of person. Let's get this done type of personality. Do your best. But I don't remember all the complaining on social media. Like I remember MySpace was a lot of fun. Remember MySpace? Everybody was partying on MySpace. Everybody was partying. And then Facebook came along, and Facebook got really depressing. I'm like, why would I want to be on Facebook when MySpace, everybody's partying? Well, then Tom sold the rights to MySpace, so then MySpace wanted to look like Facebook. And then Facebook was just dry. Fast forward, you get all this stuff, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. I'm not even going to bring Twitter into this because people be People be crying on Twitter also, which is called X now. But I just want to know what y'all think about that. Grown adults, especially like the millennial and the Gen Z women, it's like, what are y'all even crying about? If there's a policy that they're crying over, a lot of times they voted for these policies. Or if it's like, we're not being treated equal to men. If you know you're equal to a man, you shouldn't have to go out on the computer and say it. You just are. Just be. Does that make any sense? Like, not to talk about feminism too much, but the fact that they have to march and go out constantly and remind themselves, we're equal to men. That means it's not true. And don't start tripping and calling me a sexist, because first of all, sexism isn't even real. In all reality, feminism isn't even real. But everybody knows that men have certain strengths, men have certain weaknesses. Women have certain strengths, women have certain weaknesses. We are not the same. Does that make sense? Men and women both have their pros and cons. So ladies, stop trying to cross over to the man's universe, just like men shouldn't be trying to cross over to the woman's universe. We have our strengths, just like you have y'all's strengths. Oh, speaking of which, I was about to turn this video off real quick. There was a story about they were like gold miners, or gold diggers, whatever you want to call them. It's their job to climb in caves. Sorry, this video is going to be 10 minutes till I brought this up. So they're working in this cave, right? Digging. and something like in the entrance collapses. So there's a group of men who are trapped in a cave for 2 weeks. 2 weeks straight in a cave. And these guys, obviously they ran out of food at some point, I'm assuming. But these guys were so tough, they survived. But imagine if that was a group full of women. Like, they would have been fighting each other. They would have been pulling their hair out. They wouldn't have survived that stuff, man. Because men just have that natural toughness. And I'm not talking about, like, being strong, physically strong. I'm talking about that old school granddad mentality, that tough as nails mentality. Like, there's still some men who are out there like that, who you can't move. You can't push or shove. You can't bribe them. You can't buy them. You can't convince them otherwise. These guys were tough. And there's guys out there who are like, I was talking to this guy at work like 2 years ago, construction worker. And he was telling me that his dad or his granddad was in World War II. This guy lost a limb in the war, came back, and worked at a desk for as long as he possibly could until he couldn't work anymore. And I said to him, that's because he was a man. He was tough. They don't make tough guys like that anymore. And what was so beautiful, what he told me is, he said his family member didn't complain about any of it. He came back home and he worked. End of story. He worked and he was happy about it. He had a good attitude. And he worked till he was an old man. But you didn't see people complaining back then. Like my grandparents, my grandma, I don't ever remember her complaining about anything. My older family members, they didn't complain. But this whole TikTok thing is just out of control. Let me say that. Because it gives these young people the avenue to believe everybody's going to care and everybody's going to listen to them over nothing. It's opening up the door to a portal of mess. Just a portal of disaster. And like, Facebook was already bad enough with posting stuff that has nothing to do with anything. Going to the gas station, LOL. With the boo, LOL. Whereas now it's like people are actually like having like mental breakdowns. Like, they're really, what do you call that? When you just start bawling your eyes out. It's just crazy. But this video's getting long, so thanks for watching. And have a good weekend. Peace.